So it's another Sunday, another opportunity for us to delve deeper into the mysteries of returnism. This time of the year in our country obviously is the season of independence celebration, and therefore the message today revolves around the whole idea of true independence. As they say, the quest for true independence, because July 10th will mark 39 years that the Bahamas is, so it's supposedly independent nation. I have to say supposedly, because as we touch on independence and understand exactly what is independence, we have to then ask, are we truly independent? And are we truly independent? And really, the point of today's sermon or message is to convey the message of how do we find this state of independence first and foremost in our own lives, so that we can then permeate it throughout our communities and the wider society, so that we really could truly be an independent nation or country. So we started out, as always, in the original books of the Bible, and of course this is book 12, the book of the Tamarind Adamah, verse 219, starting at verse 75. And what we want to do is, we're going to take our time, we're going to walk through, and we're going to see some things that should confirm what we know, and it should enhance our understanding of it to even greater level. That's the goal of what all of the sermons are, and today is no different. Peace and blessings be upon all humanity from on high. Furthermore, the elder angelic host, Qubtic, being the microcosmic personification of divine intellect, patron of learning and literature, gave or inspired every generation of humanity to maintain intellect, writings, wisdom, scribes, and reason, etc., all of which were encoded through the genes, namely the DNA, RNA, and chromosomes, all of which allows for humanity to have and fulfill the quest for fire, which is intellect, which will link you back to the guardian angelic host, thereby opening the gateway to the mental reservoir or the primordial fire called intellect. So first and foremost, when we hear about this elder angelic host known as Qubtic, we have to always be reminded that whatever is happening here on the planet is happening in the cosmos. That's key. That's key in so many different ways. So many ways now that the scientists are praising what they refer to as this God particle. Oh yeah, but they're going to keep talking about it. This God particle. And this God particle is none other than the dot that we refer to as the nukta. Okay? This primordial fireball. This intellect. Yeah? That each one of the children of the guardian angelic host should have an innate thirst. By innate, you mean no one has to inspire you to want to know. You, for whatever reason, are looking at the world, you're seeing what's going on, and you like, this can't be it. this can't be what it is. This I'm not supposed to accept this. I'm supposed to fix this. Right? So, this microcosmic personification of divine intellect, the patron of learning and literature, gave or inspired every generation of humanity to maintain intellect, writings, wisdom, scribes, and reason. Okay, so every generation there is a manifestation of a Tahuti. Okay, that continues the writing. There's always updating the ancient manuscripts, or letting those that are listening know exactly what time it is. And a part of the way that this is done is by way of the DNA, RNA, and chromosomes, because these things are encoded inside your very blood. It says, all of which are encoded through the genes, namely the DNA, RNA, and chromosomes, all of which allows for humanity to have and fulfill the quest for fire or intellect, which will link you back to the guardian angelic host, thereby opening the gateway to the mental reservoir or the primordial fire called intellect. So there's a formula here for linking you to the guardian angelic host. The reason why we are calling on the names of the guardian angelic host is because they in turn give us an opening or a gateway to the mental reservoir, because we're learning about what it was that they did when they walked the earth, what it is that they wrote, what it is that they expected of themselves, what it is they expect of us. And in learning those things, there's portions of your DNA, your RNA, and your chromosomes that are, as we would say, exploding, awakening, coming back to life. Your soul is being restored. Having your soul restored, or your DNA and your RNA and your chromosomes reignited, and having the ability to access the mental reservoir, which really is accessed by way of the amount of what we refer to as the same fire or intellect, or this conscious fluid fire. Some would say 9 ether. There's different forms of the guardian angelic host that allows for each aspect or member of society to tap into this mental reservoir based on your potency. Everybody or every species does not tap into the mental reservoir on the same level. And this is why this makes sense to some people, and to others it just never will make sense. They'll never be able to follow what it is we're doing. They're happy with the Bible the way it is written. They're happy with religion the way it is. They're happy with politics the way it is. They're happy with the country and the world the way it is. And as far as they're concerned, this is God's plan, and this must be fulfilled, and they just going to pray and take their blows. Do we argue with that? No. Just don't try to push it off on me and say, I got to think like that. If your beliefs rule you, then that's who they rule, you. They don't rule me. So you cannot bring me your beliefs and expect for your beliefs to rule me. You see? So we have to be clear about that when we're speaking to people, because our job is to speak or share what has been shared with us. So this mental reservoir, this primordial fireball called intellect, and so far as before certain knowledge reaches the planet, it is outside. When you say in the word lect, you're saying speak, like a lecture. It's outside of what we can speak about because we haven't been introduced to it. So it is referred to as intellect. Once it is brought to our attention by way of the guardian angelic host, then it becomes planetary intellect, because now inter means between. We can have conversations between each other based on what was taught to us by the guardian angelic host, by the scriptures, by the various ways that nature teaches us what is to happen, what has happened, what is happening. Yeah? So this is very important in understanding true independence, because there's no formula of success that doesn't start out with how you think. Alright? This is why Tahuti is being mentioned, because Tahuti symbolizes thought or the mind of Ane. This is why they say Tahuti was the first begotten of the mentally dead, or the first element on the periodic table is that of hydrogen coming from the subatomic realm, a realm that we're just now tapping into, I should say that mundane scientists are tapping into in order to understand what is this world that we live in today, what is that built on? Because if we can understand what this world is built on, then there's things that we can manipulate from the realm of cause to affect our reality. So don't think for a minute that these mundane scientists help you or me and mine. Okay, I read the story about this whole God particle thing, and they made a reference to the spokesman who was up there talking about it, and he made a joke, "Thanks, nature." And everybody burst out laughing, and that was a big joke because nature finally gave them what they wanted, according to them. But it was a joke, and I say, wow, this is the mentality that's going to keep them in the wilderness, and they'll be in another 40-year wilderness. Okay, trying to figure out, because it's been about that long since my man mentioned it, the scientist, so-and-so Higgs, whatever his first name is. They've been looking for, I think it's around roughly 40 years, eh? Yeah. So they'll be in another 40-year wilderness trying to find out now how to utilize this so-called Higgs boson, or what type of boson is it. But because those of us that are aligned to those higher energies, higher guardian angelic hosts, higher scriptures, or to say it another way, because we read the scriptures from on high, we have the ability to understand what many will only guess at. And it's our responsibility to tap into the sciences now to utilize what we actually learning about in these scriptures. So it goes on to say, give praises to Ane. Thus, in that generation, he who sat in the seat of the elder angelic host Tahuti did deem it necessary to impart within humanity the innate ability to make the transition from mortality to immortality, whereby the willing spirit and the fleshly body merge as one. Okay, we see this in the book of John. If we jump down to John, and I want to say John chapter 17. John 17. We're gonna touch a couple verses in John chapter 17. We'll start at verse 11. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I am come to thee, Holy Father. John 17, verse 11. I'm sorry. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee. Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. So the whole idea now, the whole formula is for those that says, those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. Right? We jump down, I'll comment as we go, but I want to get a clear context on what we're talking about before I do that. Jump down to verse 21. Because when we speak about atonism, and the fact that atonism, our true faith, is in becoming one with the Most High, this is what Yahshua was teaching. And in the original books of the Bible, this speaks about this process of becoming one as a transition from mortality to immortality. You are learning how to become an immortal. They put it all in the movie, so it seems unattainable. But you have the right, you have the ability to do it. John 17 and 21. You got it? That they all may be one. As thou, Father, art in me, Yahshua speaking, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. Again, one, right? Jump down, well, we keep reading, verse 22. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as what? We are one. Verse 23. I in them, and thou in me, that they may be made what? So you're supposed to be made perfect. That they may be made perfect in one. That's how you become perfect. By merging and becoming one. And that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them, and thou hast loved me. Yes? We look now at, let's go to 1 Corinthians 15. Of course, you're going to be like, well, how does this tie into independence? How does this make sense? Well, stay tuned. 53 and 54. Sorry, 1 Corinthians 15, verses 53 and 54. For this corruptible must put on incorruption. For this corruptible must put on incorruption. The word corruptible here, sartos, decayed, that is perishable. What part of us is perishable? The body, the flesh. That's the part that can decay. That's the part of us that will go back to the earth, that will go back to the water, to the wind, and to the fire. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, aphasia, incorruptibility, generally unending existence, genuineness, immortality, incorruption, sincerity. These are the aspects of those who become one with the Most High Heavenly One. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on what? Immortality. Okay? Deathlessness. Yes? So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in the victory. Alright? And that victory is the word nikos, a conquest, a triumph. Yes? So there has to be a merging, there has to be an alignment. There has to be a point in time where the willing spirit and the fleshly body merge as one. It goes on further to say in the original books of the Bible, I'm at verse 77 now. May both those who are above and on top earth, we read this before, but I want to make sure I'm clear as I move on. May both those who are above and on top earth fulfill the divine will of An-Nehri. The elder angelic host Tahuti thereby is acknowledged amongst we that are the guardian angelic host as being the supreme being of love and peace. So it's not just about having a knowledge. It's not just about saying I understand DNA and RNA and chromosomes and 9 ether and primordial fire and the God. It's not about just saying that. The whole purpose behind saying learning these things was to, at the end of the day, bring love and peace between beings. It says, for through wisdom, humanity shall have peace and love between beings of varying natures. So the key to understanding how to get along is to make sure that we have enough wisdom, to appreciate each other. To simply say you're going to get along is not enough. You have to appreciate and understand who you're getting along with and how you get along with them. Getting along with a person doesn't mean you can be chummy and friendly with them, you know. You may have to just be separated to get along. You understand what I'm saying? You may just have to say, you know what, that's your corner, and that's my corner. And that's how we can keep the peace. And I love it when you're over there, and you love it when I'm over here. Then there'll be those that can come together and can get things done. But this is what those that have sat in the seat of Tahuti have done. And they've brought the wisdom of you should not go around mixing your seed. Because that's confusion. And that confusion causes internal wars, which in effect cause external wars. It interferes with the genetic encoding that has been put in place to keep our environment a balanced environment. Alright? That's just an example. Right? And as we look at our country now, and we celebrate 39 years, I guarantee you that most still don't even understand or appreciate what they're celebrating or why they should be celebrating. What are the benefits of being independent? Well, I can say this, the ultimate benefit of being independent is to control your own destiny, is to not be subject to anyone, is to not have somebody be able to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, etc. And we as a nation are not in that position. We're still not feeding ourselves. We're still not controlling our judiciary so far as the highest court of appeal in this country goes back to the privileged ones, the Privy Council. We still don't have our own curriculum in place as far as education is concerned. We still go off to London or somewhere in the UK to find out what we should be teaching our own children, which is ridiculous. The very people that oppressed you are the ones that you go to be affirmed by. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for the Holy Qubtic Church. Because if you are in a position whereby as a nation you're still celebrating the status quo of being confirmed, of being accredited, of being given the nod by those who have continuously oppressed you, then all you're doing is celebrating a notion of independence. It's just cute to say, okay, we get our own flag. We don't have to compete against the same runners in the UK for the Olympic trials because we don't have our own team. Stuff like that. But as far as saying, no thank you, we don't want X, Y, and Z, what leverage do we have? We import the majority of everything that we get here. And for some reason we made to feel that that's okay. For some reason we made to feel like we should be comfortable with that. With our future. I mean, that's really a national security threat. If somebody wanted to really cut us off from the food supplies that come into this country, they're just talking the food now, not everything else, we'd be in some serious problems. And this is nothing new. People have heard this time and time again. But as they hear it, they continue to do what they do. Go to work, go to the food store, go to church, go to the party, come home, sleep. Same vicious cycle. Yet we're not truly going after this quest for independence. And the reason why has to do everything with how we think. How we think about ourselves, how we think about our country, how we think about our families, and who is going to care how we think is a big concern for us. See, when you walk around and you tell people that you love and respect your Africanness, and we only using the word Africa because that's what people understand. That's not the original word. But we understand, people wouldn't understand Tamarin. Okay, so we say Africa to get the point across. We want to have a conversation, right? But if we say we want to go back to the times of Zed Tefi, some would say Zed Tefi. That's on verse 71 on page 219. Yet with this, humanity must rejoice in knowing that by the divine willpower of Ane, we, the guardian angelic hosts, do provide for you from within and around you at all times. So, this is where what Paul was saying in Corinthians doesn't necessarily line up exactly with what we're saying, because he's saying you got to put on this incorruptibleness, this immortality, but it's coming from within you. You have to wake up to it. It's coming from within you. And so it was that just after the great rebirth of Mother Earth and the countless calamities which did befall the preceding stage of humanity, at the end of that universal cycle, the present time cycle which humanity lives in began. That time period was an era which the Tamarains or ancient Africans called Zed Tefi, or the first times, wherein we, the guardian angelic hosts, incarnated on tar earth in order to guide humanity by initiating as many as were worthy amongst the survivors of the great calamities into the essentials of true culture and true religious identity within the sacred precepts of the Holy Qubtic Church. We're coming to that time, and there again, whereby the calamities are they're already befalling us. The earthquakes have started, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the volcanoes have already started, and for those that have survived the calamities, those are the ones, and this is why Psalm 40, we read Psalm 40, and there's something in here that we have to really we can milk it and we can harp on it because we need to be clear about it. Psalm 40. Start right at verse 1. Psalm chapter 40. This is David speaking. Dawood. I waited patiently. I waited patiently. That's key. One of the things we don't have as a people is patience. We for whatever reason, leave that out of the formula, and because we don't have patience, we don't necessarily get as much done as we could. If you look at the way Hollywood or big business operates, for example, I was listening to a commercial. It's one of these big broadcasting networks. I want to say, for example, I'm not sure, but let's say, for example, a big station like ABC or NBC or CBS, and they're promoting, let's say, the Olympics or some Super Bowl or whatever. They sign contracts for 10, 15 years to say, you'll be watching this particular program on this channel for the next 10, 15 years, because that's how they plan. They're going to make sure that their families are eating, and when they get closer to that 15 years, maybe we got 5 years on this contract, we need to start figuring out what we can do if we go, you know what I'm saying? And it takes a certain amount of patience to be able to work like that. When they shot the movie Avatar, James Cameron and crew, I think they worked on that movie anywhere from 3 to 5 years. There's there was actors or actresses in that movie that shot other movies while they were doing that movie. You understand? We just see 2-3 hour production, whatever they cut it down to, and we say, oh wow, that was great, I wish I could do that someday. But could you imagine the setbacks? Could you imagine the frustrations? Could you imagine everything that it took to get that film together, to coordinate everybody's efforts, to make the film work? This is what we have to do. We have to figure out how we're going to be patient enough with each other, patient enough with ourselves, because listen to what it says here in Psalm 40 again. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. So first he waited patiently, then he said the Lord inclined unto him and heard his cry. Okay, the word inclined there is the word nata, or he stretched or spread out. Okay, stretched or spread out, came toward him, heard his cry. Then he says, he brought me up also out of the horrible pit. So while he was being patient, where was he? In the horrible pit. Not just the pit. The pit is bad enough, you know. The horrible pit. Okay? Horrible. Noise, pump, rushing. Alright? The busy city. The word pit there is the word bore. A prison. A pit hole, a dungeon. Okay, that's how our circumstances feel to us sometimes when we just can't get anywhere. Out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and establish my goings. So anything he put in place to get done was falling apart because he wasn't on solid ground. So any cookout, any play or production, any business venture, whatever he was putting his mind to was not coming to fruition. But he waited patiently. Our country right now is stuck in this horrible pit. Murder, rape, I stopped counting. You know, you just kind of stay out of the way and you pray that we could figure this thing out. But we're waiting patiently, but we're not just sitting around waiting now. You got to be doing some things while you wait, so that your feet can be put back upon the rock. And our feet are being put back on the rock because after 39 years, we're starting to see some things happen in this country that we would have never seen before, at least in our time. Verse 3, and he hath put a new song in my mouth. The new song in our mouth is atonism. So we understand that this is something people have never heard before, and that's why I make every attempt to go on whatever radio station invite me and go and speak about this so people can hear it, because it's our job to make sure they're exposed to it and they have the opportunity to utilize this information to better themselves. And he has put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto Nassau Elohim. They have the word God there, which if you look that up is the word Elohim or Nassau Elohim. Many shall see it and shall fear. Where their fear means to revel, not to be scared of, to revel, and shall trust in the Lord. The only way they can be able to see what we're doing is for us to go out there and be bold with it and talk about it. So I work in effortlessly. I don't always tell people what I'm doing, because when you tell the devil what you're doing, when you get there, you meet him there, right? But we are going to be going into different institutions starting as early as August, September, to share this information with people and start to branch out into the wider community so that we can be clear about what we expect from our nation and what we want our independence to be. So nobody can tell you what your independence is if you're truly independent. They tell us we're independent, but then they tell us how we got to run the banks. And they tell us how we got to do X, Y, and Z, or else they can pull, A, B, and C away from us. And so I'm not saying this to say that we're supposed to just become a rogue nation or a rogue people, but the reality of the situation is that we don't even appreciate that we need to make a change, that we need to understand what it is that we're doing as far as the nation or as a people is concerned. It goes on further to say, blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust. Blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust, and respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust. So, to make it the Lord your trust doesn't mean to focus on a man or a woman. It means to focus on the way that they did things. To trust the way that they did things. We in the Qubtic church trust the way that our great ancestors did things. And what does it say for us? It says we don't respect the proud or to those that turn aside to lies. The majority of our country turns to lies because they have what's called herd mentality. If somebody else is saying that it's right, then it must be right. Following fashion. Yeah? Exactly. Many, O Lord, my God, are thy wonderful works, which thou hast done. It says, and thy thoughts, going back to Tahuti now, which are to usward, they cannot be reckoned up in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. Because there's no thing that is manifested in the boundless universe that wasn't a thought first. You see? So, our thoughts allow us to manifest our environment. And our thoughts allow us to seek and go after true independence. Now, true independence means that you have, go back to what is called the original morality as well as the life standards of your guardian angelic host. So nobody tells you what your family is supposed to be. Nobody tells you what your life is supposed to be. Nobody tells you what your country is supposed to be. You're supposed to be following a script that was put in place by, some would say, Almighty God, as we say, the Most High Heavenly One, and they reign. But we too afraid to do that as a nation. The minute we start talking like this, everyone get quiet. I mentioned there's ministers out there who will come to me one-to-one. Oh, you right on point. When they standing up in the house, they ain't saying that. They don't want to associate themselves with this message publicly because of who may think what and why, and so what you trying to say. And they realize that people lack a certain amount of wisdom, a certain amount of knowledge and understanding, and because of this, we're suffering. Yeah? But what do? We can wait patiently. But waiting patiently doesn't mean doing nothing. As we celebrate these 39 years and look towards the 40 years, some would say, yes, this is the end of our 40-year wilderness. We are now coming into our own, and I believe that we are. No longer can we say that the Bahamas is behind on information or people who want to know. We can't say that anymore. There's many groups seeking truth. There's many groups, whether we agree with them or not, that are putting things together, and you have to respect it because it's bigger than us, bigger than the Qubtic church, bigger than any one group. There's a condition that is forming within us and around us that's making people question. So as you see people celebrating these 39 years, I want you to begin to listen to when they do the little reports on the news and ask people how they feel about 39 years. And I start hearing people say, well, I don't really think we're independent. Yeah, I heard that. I was like, okay. Like we're not feeding ourselves, and we just gave a little list. Like I'm not feeling that. Yeah, I'm not really feeling that. You know. And I said, wow, that's important for us to say. That's important for us to think. Because when we truly become independent, we will realize that we can't just lean on the word Bahamas. Because there's a lady that I know, I won't call her name, that did a PhD. And her PhD dealt with, in short, it dealt with the origins of the Africans in the Bahamas. And as you look in our story, you get to a place, you find the pirates, you find the Lucayans, you find Christopher Columbus, you find all of these things, but you don't get to our reference point or our origin. And therefore, because we don't have that, what we end up doing is mimicking. So we even mimicking independence now. We're just doing what we think you're supposed to do on independence. If you go out there to, I don't know what they call it, the tattoo this year, or I don't know, I never really paid that much attention. I go and I probably would let the children go if they like to see the dogs chase down the man. You do the same thing every year. Well, I know they don't do the same thing as far as them. They don't spend the same amount of money every year. So I think they do the tattoo every other year. Whatever it is. Yeah, right. But the point I'm making is there's no speech that comes from the so-called throne about our independent thought and what we accomplished for the year as a nation. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be saying how our GPA in schools have gotten better. We're supposed to be talking about how the crime rate is decreasing because we have now more community centers. We have now been engaging not just the youth, because I tired of them putting this rock on the youth. The youth are just a reflection of the elders. So the elders didn't do what they were supposed to do, and that's why the youth running haywire. You can't expect for children to have manners if you never put it in them in the first place. You can't expect them to have Bahamian history in them if you never put it in them in the first place. Yes, we competing with TV. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we competing with television. Yes, we competing with all of this technology. But you don't have to compete with it. You could utilize it. We need to be more technologically aware, whereby we put in the information where the children could find it, even when they ain't trying to find it. You understand? So that's our job, though. That's our job, as we wait patiently inside this horrible pit. As we come out of the miry clay and set our feet upon a rock, as we establish our goings, we do so knowing that we are putting our trust in the Most High Heavenly One and a ray, not in a religious sense, but in a sense whereby we're becoming one with each other, we're becoming one with the scriptures, and ultimately we're becoming one with the Most High, and that is how we're going to gain and manifest our true independence, whereby we then control our destiny and show people better than we can tell them what we're about and why we're doing what we're doing. And with that I say, Amun.